The Las Vegas Strip has always been the busiest, loudest, and brightest street in America. For decades, it was a place where millions gathered every year chasing luck and living out the dream of Sin City. But in 2025, something feels off. The lights still flash, but the crowds are gone. The casinos stand half empty, and the buzz that once defined Las Vegas has turned into silence. Why officials blame inflation, high airfare, and changing travel habits? But according to the very people who work on the Strip every day, the dealers, the bartenders, the hotel staff, that story isn't the full truth. In whispers and quiet confessions, they've admitted something shocking. Vegas is empty on purpose. These aren't conspiracy theorists. They're the workers who polish the floors, pour the drinks, and deal the cards. They've seen what happens behind the velvet curtains. They've been told to close off tables, to leave rooms dark, to raise prices until the regular tourists disappear. And now their confessions pull back the curtain on a secret the casinos don't want the world to know. Why would Vegas push its own customers away? What's the hidden plan behind the silence? Tonight, we uncover the truth through the voices of the Strip workers themselves, and their confessions will forever change the way you see Las Vegas. To understand the shocking confessions of the Strip workers, we first need to remember what Las Vegas used to be. For decades, this desert city was more than neon. It was energy movement and endless crowds. One dealer who had worked on the Strip since the 1990s described it like this. Back then, we never stopped dealing. The tables were always full. I could barely take a break because there was always another player waiting. The numbers back up his memory. By the early 2000s, more than 35 million tourists visited Las Vegas every year. Hotels boasted occupancy rates above 90%, and casinos pulled in billions. For the bartenders, cocktail servers, performers, and cab drivers, it was a golden age. We didn't just have jobs, a hotel housekeeper recalled. We had careers. Vegas kept our families alive. The Strip wasn't just for gamblers, it was for everyone. Families came for cheap buffets and theme park-like resorts. Couples came for quick weddings and wild weekends. Businessmen filled convention halls while celebrities headlined sold-out shows. Workers remember the hum of constant life. It felt like a living heartbeat, one longtime bartender said. Every night was a Friday night. Every day felt like New Year's Eve. Even crises couldn't kill it. After the 2008 financial crash, Vegas dipped but bounced back. After the 2020 pandemic, when the Strip briefly went dark, the return of tourists was so overwhelming that workers described it as a flood. It was like the dam broke, said a security guard. People were desperate to get back to Vegas, and we were desperate to welcome them. That was the rhythm of Vegas. No matter what happened, the crowds always returned. For the workers, that rhythm was life itself. They built their schedules, their finances, and even their identities around the certainty that the Strip would always be full. And that's what makes the silence of 2025 so haunting. For the first time, the Strip doesn't feel like it's recovering. Entire casinos are dim. Lounges stand empty. Dealers are told not to open tables. Rooms remain locked, even when tourists are ready to check in. Workers who once thrived on motion are now standing still, forced to watch the city they kept alive grow unnaturally quiet. Something's different this time, a veteran cocktail server admitted. Vegas has been down before, but this feels intentional. It's like they want us to believe the party's over. The emptiness of Las Vegas didn't arrive overnight. It crept in slowly like the desert heat after sunset. By 2023, workers on the Strip began noticing changes that didn't match the official narrative. Hotel occupancy slipped, but instead of fighting to fill the rooms, management made a surprising decision. They kept large sections of hotels closed. A housekeeper recalled the moment she realized something wasn't right. We were told to clean only half the tower. The rest stayed dark, even though tourists were lined up at the desk. They said, "Leave it empty." That made no sense to us. Bartenders echoed the same story. Cocktail prices doubled. Basic drinks that once cost $8 were suddenly $20 or more. They didn't want people lingering at the bar anymore, one bartender confessed. They wanted to chase away the regulars to make Vegas too expensive for the average tourist. Dealers felt the shift most clearly. In previous decades, casinos thrived on crowded gaming floors, slots ringing dice, rolling chips clattering. But by late 2024, dealers were being ordered to shut down tables early. We had people ready to play, one dealer explained, but management told us to close the pit. I've never seen that before. We weren't losing business. We were turning it away. At first, workers assumed this was mismanagement. Maybe the corporations were making mistakes. Maybe they were out of touch with customers. But as the pattern repeated, the whispers began. Security guards, bartenders, dealers, and waitresses all shared the same suspicion: the emptiness was by design. Tourists noticed too. Social media exploded with photos of deserted casino floors. In December 2024, a viral TikTok showed a traveler walking through a half-lit resort, his voice echoing, "This isn't Vegas. It feels like a ghost town." Instead of responding with discounts or flashy promotions, the casinos stayed silent. They raised fees, added new charges, and cut back services. To the public, it looked like arrogance. To the workers, it looked like a message: Vegas didn't want the crowds anymore. Even the entertainment industry felt it. Shows that once sold out months in advance began closing abruptly. A stagehand from a famous strip theater admitted, "We weren't told to fight for ticket sales. We were told the show wasn't needed. The bosses wanted the venue dark." By early 2025, the pattern was impossible to ignore. Families who had traveled to Vegas for decades stopped coming. International travelers from China and Canada, once some of the biggest spenders, vanished almost entirely. Yet the casinos didn't panic. Workers were stunned. If this had happened 10 years ago, executives would have gone crazy trying to bring people back, one longtime dealer said. Now they just shrug. It's like they want the strip empty. The workers' confessions reveal a chilling truth. The emptiness wasn't the result of economic decline, it was part of a strategy. Each instruction, each closed door, each overpriced cocktail pointed to a larger plan. And, though no executive said it out loud, the workers could feel it. "We were told not to ask questions," a server admitted. But we all knew the strip was being hollowed out on purpose. The official explanation from Nevada officials continued to blame inflation, high airfare, and shifting consumer trends. But the people living and working inside the casinos saw something very different. They saw a city deliberately slowing itself down, pulling back its energy, and creating an eerie silence where there should have been chaos. And as the strip grew quieter, the questions grew louder. Why would Las Vegas push its own customers away? Who benefits from an empty strip? And most importantly, what are the workers really confessing about the hidden truth behind Sin City's eerie silence? When the strip workers finally opened up about what they were seeing, the picture became even darker. These weren't rumors. They were first-hand confessions from the people who kept the strip alive. A dealer with more than 20 years of experience explained the orders he received in 2024. "We had 6 tables ready, but they told us to only open 2. I had players begging me to deal, but I wasn't allowed. Management said, keep it quiet, keep it empty." That's when I realized this wasn't about bad business. It was about control. A bartender at a well-known strip casino told a similar story. He remembered when drinks were cheap because casinos wanted guests to stay longer. But by 2025, everything changed. We doubled cocktail prices, sometimes tripled them. People would walk away. That was the point. Management didn't want the regular crowd anymore. They wanted to filter who stayed. For the hotel staff, the instructions were just as strange. One housekeeper confessed. Half the rooms were blocked off. We weren't even allowed to clean them. They told us, "Don't open those floors." I kept asking why, and all they said was, "We want them empty." Even security guards noticed the shift. Instead of encouraging foot traffic, they were told to restrict it. Normally, our job was to keep people moving, to keep energy flowing, one guard revealed. Now we were told not to let people linger. No photos, no hanging around. It was like they wanted the strip to feel dead. Entertainers had their own confessions. A showgirl who had performed in Vegas since the 2010s admitted, "I lost my gig not because the show failed, but because they never even advertised it. They pulled the plug before we started." It was like they wanted theaters to be dark. Taken together, these confessions paint a terrifying pattern. Workers weren't just observing a decline, they were being ordered to create it. The casinos deliberately cut capacity, raised prices, and reduced entertainment, all while keeping their employees in the dark. Some workers were blunt about what they thought was happening. "They're redesigning Vegas, and we're the pawns," said a longtime dealer. "They don't want crowds anymore. They want whales, VIPs, people who spend millions. Everyone else, they'd rather push us away." Another bartender added, "It's not about profit today. It's about building the Vegas of tomorrow. And in that Vegas, there's no room for the middle class." The workers' stories also revealed how management silenced questions. Employees who asked why tables stayed closed or rooms were left empty were told not to push further. "They told us, 'This is above your pay grade,'" a server confessed. "We all knew something was wrong, but nobody wanted to risk their job." By 2025, these confessions had spread quietly through the worker community. In break rooms and parking lots, in whispered conversations after shifts, the same conclusion kept surfacing: Las Vegas was being emptied on purpose. And while officials and executives continued to blame outside forces, the workers knew the truth. They were the ones pouring the drinks, cleaning the rooms, and dealing the cards. They were the ones who saw empty sections left dark while customers stood waiting. Their confessions left no doubt the silence of the Strip was not an accident, it was engineered. The only question left was why. Why would casino owners deliberately hollow out their own empire? Who benefits when Sin City looks like a ghost town? And what hidden agenda were the Strip workers accidentally exposing with their quiet confessions? The confessions of the Strip workers didn't just reveal strange instructions, they hinted at a much bigger plan unfolding behind the scenes. When dealers, bartenders, and hotel staff whispered about being told to leave rooms dark or raise prices sky high, they were unknowingly describing a blueprint designed far above their pay grade. At the heart of it all was a strategy of elimination and replacement. For decades, Las Vegas had thrived on the middle class. Families booked $19 hotel rooms, tourists flocked to $10 buffets, and gamblers filled the tables with small stakes. But by 2023, corporations decided that model was obsolete. "The bosses don't want millions of small players anymore," one veteran worker explained. "They want a handful of whales. That's enough to feed the system." This wasn't just speculation. Workers began noticing the clear divide. Entire sections of casinos were blocked off to regular players, while hidden VIP salons buzzed with life. "We'd shut down 10 blackjack tables, but upstairs in private rooms, billionaires were playing hands worth more than my yearly salary," a dealer confessed. The emptiness on the floor wasn't failure, it was a filter. Wall Street played its part too. Private equity firms had bought massive stakes in Vegas resorts, and their goal was simple: maximize profits per guest. Reports showed that by 2025, average visitor spending had skyrocketed even as visitor numbers dropped. To investors, this was proof of success. To workers, it was proof the city was being redesigned to serve the ultra-rich. The role of government made the picture even darker. Workers recalled meetings where executives reassured staff that the quiet Strip was temporary. But insiders hinted that state regulators and even federal agencies were in on the plan. "They told us not to worry because the numbers look fine in Washington," one hotel manager remembered. What did that mean? To many workers, it sounded like officials were more concerned about financial flows than about keeping Vegas alive for ordinary people. A bartender put it bluntly: "Vegas isn't a city anymore, it's a stage for the elite, and we're just the extras who set the scene." The restructuring had 3 clear effects. 1. Small competitors were wiped out. Independent motels, local restaurants, and family-run attractions couldn't survive in a city that pushed away the middle class. Their collapse made room for megacorporations to dominate the Strip. 2. Tourism became exclusive. Instead of tens of millions of visitors, Vegas shifted toward fewer but wealthier guests. Private jets replaced family cars. Luxury suites replaced budget rooms. Where once anyone could feel like a high roller for a night, now only true high rollers were welcome. 3. Silence created secrecy. With fewer crowds, Vegas became the perfect venue for discreet meetings, corporate negotiations, political fundraisers, even international deals hidden behind the cover of VIP gaming. The workers may not have known all the details, but they saw enough to understand. "We're not serving America anymore," one server admitted. "We're serving the billionaires who own America." By 2025, the transformation was undeniable. A city once fueled by chaos and crowds had been engineered into a controlled playground. Strip workers felt betrayed. They had given their lives to a city that no longer wanted them or the people they once welcomed. The question that haunted them was the same one haunting Vegas itself. If Sin City can be hollowed out and remade in silence, who really controls it now, and how far will their plan go? The most disturbing part of the strip workers' confessions wasn't just about lost jobs or shuttered shows. It was about what the emptiness of Las Vegas was really hiding. The silence of the strip, they believed, was more than an economic shift. It was a smokescreen. One security guard who worked nights on the strip whispered, "We were told to keep people away from certain areas. Not because of safety, but because of what was happening inside." I saw men in suits carrying briefcases walking into private rooms at 3 a.m. Those rooms weren't about gambling. They were about business no one was supposed to see. A dealer admitted that she once handled chips worth millions of dollars in a single session. The players weren't there for entertainment. They barely spoke, never drank, and left as quietly as they arrived. That wasn't gambling, she said. That was money changing hands under the cover of a casino. Bartenders told similar stories. "We served no one," one confessed. "The bar was empty all night, but upstairs the suites were packed with people who didn't care about the strip. They weren't tourists. They were movers of money." Workers began piecing it together. The emptiness wasn't a flaw, it was a feature. With fewer crowds, it became easier to move vast sums through the system unnoticed. A $5 million loss at a baccarat table could launder dirty cash instantly. A quiet real estate deal could transfer ownership of a casino tower without drawing headlines. And it wasn't just money. Some workers claimed the strip had become a stage for political backroom deals. A stagehand recalled overhearing a manager say, "This isn't about shows anymore. This theater is a cover for meetings." Others whispered about foreign investors, billionaires from China, executives from the Middle East, and oligarchs from Eastern Europe using the emptiness as protection. No cameras, no tourists, no attention. "That's exactly how they wanted it," one worker said. By 2025, the workers were convinced that Vegas had been hollowed out for secrecy. The flashy lights distracted from the fact that the Strip was no longer America's playground. It was a fortress for global transactions. Locals lost jobs, tourists lost the magic, but behind closed doors, the real game thrived. The casinos, of course, denied everything. Publicly, executives insisted the changes were about sustainability and adjusting to market realities. Officials in Nevada repeated the same lines: inflation, airfare, shifting habits. But the workers had seen too much. They had carried the drinks cleaned, the empty rooms stood watch outside sealed doors. Their quiet confessions told another story, one of a city deliberately silenced so that deals worth billions could pass unnoticed. One longtime cocktail server put it best: Vegas didn't die, it was stolen. And the emptiness was the mask they used to hide the theft. The strip workers may not have known the names of the players or the size of the fortunes, but they knew the truth. Las Vegas wasn't empty because it had failed. It was empty because someone wanted it that way. And that leaves one terrifying question for the rest of us. If Sin City can be emptied and repurposed in plain sight, how many other cities are quietly being rewritten while no one is watching? Las Vegas was once the beating heart of entertainment, a place where anyone could feel alive under the neon lights. But the confessions of the strip workers reveal a darker truth. The silence of the casinos, the closed hotel rooms, the empty theaters, none of it was an accident. It was a plan. Workers admitted they were told to leave rooms dark, to close tables, even when players were waiting to raise prices until average tourists walked away. They confessed to seeing briefcases carried into private suites, to witnessing millions exchanged at quiet tables, to overhearing whispers of deals that had nothing to do with gambling. The Strip didn't empty itself. It was emptied on purpose. And those who kept the city alive, the dealers, bartenders, housekeepers, performers, were the first to notice and the first to speak out. Vegas didn't collapse. One worker said, "It was stolen from the people who built it." So the question becomes, if the most famous city in America can be hollowed out in silence, what else is happening in the shadows of our world? If Las Vegas can be redesigned to serve only the powerful few, what does that mean for the rest of us? For the cities we live in, for the jobs we depend on, for the futures we believe are secure. The lights of the Strip still shine, but now we know who they shine for. And the confessions of its workers remind us behind the neon, behind the noise lies a silence that tells the real story.